Welcome, my friends. Welcome. I'm going to just put pause on this here. And we're going to get to the show. How's everybody doing today? Welcome to the Mark Pires live experience here from the vehicle. I'm on my way to an appointment. I have a 10:30 appointment. I'm roughly just about 20 minutes away. And I just wanted to get on the air real quick, talk to you guys about the real estate market 2025, mortgage rates. We're going to have a very special, really cool segment going forward every week on Discover Connecticut called Mortgage Minute. And I hope to have on the show today, and I'm going to try to see if I can reach out to Tim and see if he'll join us to just give us a little overview of the mortgage market. And Tim Martin's a great guy, guaranteed rate affinity, and we're trying to see if we can continue the momentum going. He had a phenomenal year last year. I had a good end of the year. First part of this year, it's starting solid, but I set some really unbelievable goals for myself this year, so I'm relying on you. I'm hoping you guys will share. Why is my camera doing that? It's sideways. When you're dealing with a gimbal and it follows you around the car and you take a crazy turn, I guess, the camera just adjusts. We do have Instagram on with us today. Welcome, Instagram. I don't know if anybody's actually watching on Instagram, which probably not, but welcome. You should join us on one of the platforms we're live on: YouTube, Twitch, Kick. I don't even know if we're on X. We are on Facebook and on Rumble. So we're talking about the real estate market and what is the outlook for 2025. I'll tell you right now, we need some focus on the real estate business and on mortgage rates. And that's not happening from people that are in charge of everything right now. They're focused on a lot of other stuff, but there's no focus on the real estate market and on getting the rates down. And right now we need that desperately because we're seeing tons of sellers on the sideline. They're just waiting. They're not going to put their houses on the market, and I'll tell you why. They say to themselves, I locked in at a 3% rate. I locked in at 3.5, locked in at 2.7, locked in at 4, whatever. Right now it's 6.7. That's why I want to get Tim on and see if we can find out exactly what the rates are today. So I can start to delve deeper on this whole, I guess my breakdown on and the analysis on this market is when you have a supply and demand issue, which is what we have. There is literally zero supply and there's a ton of demand. So prices are through the roof, but rates are ridiculous. So what you're seeing is a ton of cash buyers. You're not seeing regular Joe Schmo buyers. The normal buyers used to say, you know what? I really would love one extra room. Same price across town, we can get that out. Why don't we just sell our house? We'll go move over to that one. Well, that's not happening anymore. And the reason is the rates. Let's just take $1 million home, for example. You could have a house that's currently worth $1 million. When you go to sell that house for $1 million and you go to try to buy again another house at $1 million, you're getting less house. You have to choose one out of. There's no properties to choose from, so you're probably overpaying for the next one. You probably got over $1 million when you sold yours, but then when you go to buy the next one, you're paying over for that one. It's always going to be a wash. This is the other thing I don't think people realize. It will always be a wash. Whatever market you're in, if you buy in the same moment you sell, it will be a wash. Unless you have a really good realtor who gets you a better deal, which is usually what happens when you work with someone who's proactive and somebody who thinks differently like me. This past week, I shared a couple of really cool details. I sold a $1.3 million property last week, and I brought this property on the market. It's in Easton, Connecticut. Nothing ever trades like that type of house over $1 million. It's like $780 to $925, $950, and we went to the absolute max. Where my client said, "Look, if I sell it for this number, I'll sell the house. If I don't, I'm going to stay." So we put it on at that number. Had it on for a little over a week. 2 open houses where I actually broadcasted live. You can go and watch those open houses and see how I interacted with the people that came in the door. And one of these conversations, which I believe is in the 19-minute open house video, is this neighbor that came over. She was very sweet, but she's basically trying to stick a knife at me and say, She goes, did you come up with this number? Like, who came up with this number? Was this you? And I go, ma'am, we don't put up numbers on houses. We give advice to our clients. Our clients are the ones who determine what they want to sell a house for. And so she goes, well, you'll never sell this house. You'll never, ever get this. This is a crazy number. So literally, she goes, this is a crazy number. So I said, okay. But the funny thing is, while I said okay, and I smiled right back to her and right at her, I just said, okay. I said, well, thank you for coming by. I appreciate your feedback. We'll see how we do. I had a check in my pocket for $130,000 from the buyers. So the deal was done. I just had the open house, scheduled, and you can't just cancel an open house 20 minutes before an open house. People are driving from very far away in order to see these homes because there's nothing on the market. So I did the open house, but we had already sold the house. And when people came in, I told them, look, we already accepted an offer, but we're taking backups if you're interested. The point was, the lady thought I was crazy and the sellers were crazy for trying to get a number, and I got the number. Now, it's because I went live there, and the people that bought that house were at their house watching my live. They were watching the entire open house to see how everybody responded to the house that they wanted to buy. And this is why Discover Connecticut is such a powerful tool for listing your home, because when I go live, popping it for you, I got 3 pieces from yesterday. First one, the audio didn't work, but I did get it on my camera, which, by the way, we're not recording right now. Now we are. I always try to get the backup of recording directly to my camera, so I've got the 4K footage to go back and work with later. So I just want to quickly try to motivate you guys here. This is Tuesday. We've got a moment right here, right now, to go out and do something. We could sit back and we could wait for things to come to us, but they never do. You've got to go out there and be proactive. And when someone does reach out to you, get on it. For example, yesterday I got this message about a couple properties that my clients are looking at. And so I had a conversation about it, but I was at an appointment when the first message came through. Well, as soon as I saw that message, I started looking into the properties. I started calling the agents, started getting a breakdown of what the rent rolls were, just to understand what I could share when I get them on the phone. And the reality is, I wish I got the message immediately, but I'm with clients. I don't look at my phone when I'm with clients. And this is something you need to learn. When you're with a client, when you're sitting at a meeting with someone across from you, do not look at your phone. Do not even pick it up. It could buzz, it could ring. Don't pick it up. Tell the people you love, I'm going to an appointment, don't call me. If anybody else calls you, let it go to voicemail. That person is your priority. That person is the focus for you. Don't let them think that you care about anything else. You, by the way, you lose them. We're in a service industry. We're a lead generation. This is what we do. We lead generate and we provide service. But if you don't provide doing a better job than everybody else in your own way, then you shouldn't even be doing the job you're doing, whatever it is. At your best. You don't know who's watching. At your best. You don't know who's watching. You don't know who's going to take note and say, I like that passion. I like the stick-to-itiveness. I like the never-ending commitment. Something. But I want to work with that guy. I like the way he talks. I like the way he handles himself. I like the fact that he creates content about his properties, about Connecticut, about the experience of being an agent, roller coaster ride that we all live. You know, you guys see these shows like $1 Million Listing and you're like, oh wow, it looks so glamorous. Yeah, because they don't show you any of the other stuff. I watched the show at the beginning with my wife. And Ryan Serhant, who's become a massive megastar because of the show and as a realtor, started his own firm. He's doing amazing. I'm so proud of the guy to see that avenue and go and do it. Where they were ripping on him at the end of the year because he only sold $5 million worth of real estate that year. And everybody else was doing their $50, $60, $100 million. And I think that was the year that Frederick had closed $1 billion worth of real estate and Ryan had an off year. And I'm sitting there as a realtor and I'm watching this as these 4 realtors are ganging up on Ryan Serhant, who had a tough year. And I felt bad because Ryan was trying to make excuses for it. He's like, oh, well, you know, the reason is because, you know, I was really focused on the stories. I wanted to tell the stories of these people and their experience of selling their homes, and I got caught up in that instead of actually transacting. That's not accurate. He did get caught up with clients that just were not good clients. We've all had this. I have some clients that just aren't willing to sell. They're difficult clients. I had a client once who had their house on for $1,699,000. I was like the 9th or 10th agent in the line that came along. I went to school with their kid. And so I got in the door because I was like, hey, I went to school with your son. I'm a realtor now. I'm proactive. Can I sit down with you and share what I do different? And this was pre-drone. I didn't even have a drone yet. I thought of that like 3 or 4 years after this. Got this listing. I did an open house every single weekend at that house. This was a time when you couldn't sell real estate in Connecticut. People don't remember this. But this was just 5 years ago where you put a house on the market, it would sit there for 9 months. It could be a good value and it would sit there for 9 months. You had to be right downtown. You had to have something unique right downtown and you'd sell right away. Everything else was like you sat there for 3 to 6 months, if not longer. And so we're living in this market. And then I had a seller who was so difficult. Everybody had tried to sell it. A lot of people got lower offers. There were a couple awkward things with the house, but it was the most amazing piece of property. It was in this area called Hoyt Farms. Everybody loves it. It's a neighborhood. There's only 2 neighborhoods in all of New Canaan, Connecticut, where you have like these, like they have to get like together monthly and have these neighborhood like dinner parties where you go from house to house, and it's the coolest thing in the world to be a part of the Hoyt Farms neighborhood. And it's, you know, when you're a part of something like that, there's value. And so he knew that, and he thought, well, people will pay me my crazy number for this house. Long story short, there are 2 weeks left in this house, and I'll tell you, I did an open house every weekend. He made me. This guy was like the worst. And one weekend, it was my goddaughter's confirmation. And this jerk wouldn't let me not do my open house. He's like, you need to do the open house or I'll find another agent. And I was like, at the time I was young. And I didn't realize I have a contract. You can't just boot me because I didn't do an open house this Sunday. But I was young and I was nervous about losing that business. It was a huge piece of business. And so I drove up to my goddaughter's confirmation, which is an hour away, in order to watch the church service, give her a kiss, and then I had to go back to New Canaan, Connecticut to host an open house, which, by the way, like 4 people came. No one bought the house, and it was just a wasted day. I'm still so upset about that. Long story short, don't stop your life because somebody wants to sell their house. Like, we're not in that market, so you don't have to worry about that. But if we ever get back to a market where things aren't selling, don't stop your life. Don't do the things that are important to your life and to your family and to your happiness because of a client. Okay, those people should understand you work very hard for them, and you'll do everything you can within reason. You're not going to break your back and miss amazing lifetime events. Like, this is a piece of history that I wasn't able to go to the party afterwards. So long story short, that upset me. 2 weeks left, I have this property. I get an offer for $1,650. He's on for $1,699. He's been on for 7 years, and he never gets his number. He's on $1,699. He's got $1,650. He'll close in 30 days. And he's like, he's not responding to me for like 3 days. And I finally come, John, what are we doing here? Rich, what are we doing here? You got a $1,650 offer in your hand. This is somebody who wants your house. They're ready to buy your house. No, that's not. They got to go up. They got to pay my number. Like, you're not in a market that you can dictate. You have zero leverage. You have one offer. He's like, well, Mark, if you can't get it done, I'll just wait for the next time. And I'm thinking to myself, I missed my goddaughter's confirmation last month, you jerk. And I couldn't say it, but he's like, he's going to cut my throat because he wants $50K more. Like, we can't get people to pay more than they're willing to pay. They will pay an absolute max. If you're not willing to accept, then there's no deal. That is the reality of real estate. I want you to understand that above all. A real estate transaction happens because a buyer's willing to pay a total and the seller's willing to accept that. Those things have to happen. You know, sometimes someone accepts it against their will. Like, they're like, I have to sell because I'm going to lose my property, or something like the one I have going on right now up in Hamden, which I got a deal together on that one. I'm very excited about that. It's going to the courts to see if they'll give us the 3 weeks to close, which they should. I mean, it's a great deal. Anyway, outside of that, the point is 2 weeks left, $1,650. He's not responding. So like 3 or 4 days before, I'm like, at this point, I'm emailing him. I'm asking him, can we get more time? I have a great offer in my hand. That means we're about to sell this house. We're about to sell this house. If it's not this one, it's going to be someone very, very soon. Look where we are. We're so close. He doesn't relist with me. But 3 or 4 days before it ends, he goes, what's going on with that $1,650 buyer? I go, Rich, they're gone. They bought something else. They're not going to sit around and wait for you for 3 weeks to come to your senses. You got an amazing offer in your hand and you sat on it and you decided not to take it seriously and say, I want more. Now, greed will really screw people up in this real estate game. I'll tell you, you got to take the deal, the good deal you have, and move forward. He's waiting around for one phantom buyer. I'm curious what he eventually sold for. I bet you it was lower than I had in his hand. Because that's the way it usually works. People give up on the deal they should have taken, and they take the one they never should take because they're forced to. And I don't know how it worked out because I never looked back. That's one of my faults, and I've adjusted that in time. I'll share that quickly because I have to get going here. I used to, if someone cut my throat after I worked really hard for them, I'd say, I never want to see that property again. I don't even want to look at it. I don't want to see where it closes. I don't want to see the listing. I worked so hard for that person, and they didn't appreciate it. Done. And then that happened on the property, the $15 million property that was abused for a year at taking a property that was $9 million overpriced. But I took it because the guy was like, it's a branding deal. We just want to get our name in the market as an American company. We're from Hong Kong. I said, sure, I'll do a branding deal with you. Just don't kill me that it's not selling. You guys just bought it for $8. He's like, yeah, I want 15. Didn't do anything. Just like a little outside work. Anyway, long story short, a year later, it expires. I didn't even want it. I was so upset afterwards. That thing dropped $9 million over the next 6 years. I call him back in 2020, and I said, Neo, he's an awesome guy. Neo, I saw this. How does this at $6 million? What are we talking? Like, how did I have it for 15 and it's at 6? And you guys told me I couldn't sell. Like, and he goes, you know what? I saw what you're doing with all the video, and I was very lax about it as far as I created content every day, but I didn't let the stress get to me about when it was going to sell. And eventually, 6 years later, and then going after it again with fresh eyes, with fresh and invigorated, without getting it beaten down by the result, and that's where success comes from. It's going full force and doing it all for your clients, but without breaking your back and saying, I'm going to stop my life. You do everything you can, and then you're still doing a lot more than everybody else, and that's what I realized. I'm doing way more than everybody else. Open houses every weekend, drone photography for free. I'm doing videos of people's houses and showing up and doing the features of their houses on a bi-weekly basis, if not daily, in order to sell their properties. No other realtor, maybe they are, I don't know, maybe other people are doing it, but I started it. And you want someone who innovates. The guy who started the idea of broadcasting live all the time for properties and constant content creation, Discover Connecticut, also was the first realtor in Fairfield County to buy a drone. It's very exciting stuff to think of things first, and everybody else will copy you, and that happens. It happened, and it's happening currently, but that doesn't mean I'm not the original. That doesn't mean I'm not the guy who had the idea. I am. And I will continue to be the guy who has new, fresh ideas always. So work with that guy. Why are you going to work with the people who follow me, who copy me? Oh, this guy's doing videos too now. Yeah, I know. He stole my idea. Like, okay, we're working with the guy who's a copycat. That's what happens in this world, by the way, is people take ideas and then they just implement them, and then all of a sudden they're like, look, I do something that they really didn't think of. They're just like, ooh, that's cool. And by the way, I'm inspiring people everywhere right now in order to do the same thing. That's what I do. This is a show called Mark Pires, but my name with INS in the middle is Mark. And so I got to go now. I love you guys. I appreciate you.